Think about the last long-haul flight you took. There was probably a stop somewhere, right? Maybe Dubai, maybe Doha, maybe Singapore. You queued to get off the plane, grabbed a coffee you probably didn't need, and queued to get back on again. 2 hours of your life gone, and no closer to your destination. Now imagine that stop just vanishes. That is exactly what Boeing just made possible. And the best bit? They didn't build a new plane to do it. They didn't unveil some futuristic design at a flashy air show that won't be here for 5 years. They quietly changed a number on an aeroplane you've probably already flown on. And that one number may be about to redraw the map of global aviation. Here's what Boeing actually did, why it matters more than you might realise, and what it tells us about where the aviation industry is headed next. Let's start with the technical bit, because once you understand that, everything else clicks. In March 2026, the US Federal Aviation Administration officially certified something called the iMTOW, which stands for Increased Maximum Takeoff Weight for the Boeing 787-9 and the 787-10. The FAA signed off on the 23rd of March 2026. That's not a rumour or a proposal sitting on someone's desk somewhere. That is already signed off and done. So what does maximum takeoff weight actually mean? Well, simply, it's the heaviest a plane is legally allowed to be when it leaves the ground. More weight means more fuel means more range, or alternatively, more cargo instead of more fuel. Airlines get to choose, so it also adds flexibility. Here's what the numbers look like in the real world. The 787-9 gained 4,540 kilograms of extra takeoff weight. The 787-10 gained 6,350 kilograms. Boeing's 787 chief project engineer John Murphy put it plainly. Airlines told Boeing they wanted more flexibility, and Boeing designed a solution that delivers both variants at once without going back to the drawing board. For the 787-10, that translates to flying roughly 400 to 460 nautical miles further than before, or carrying up to 5 additional metric tons of cargo. For the 787-9, it means more than 300 nautical miles of extra range, or around 3 extra tons of payload. To put those distances in perspective, 400 nautical miles is roughly the distance from London to Bordeaux in France. That's the ability to get to a completely different destination in the same flight. And interestingly, the 787-8, the smallest variant, is not part of this upgrade. Boeing focused the improvement where the demand was loudest. Here's the thing about aviation economics that doesn't get talked about enough in regular conversation. A stopover isn't just inconvenient for passengers, it's expensive for airlines. Every time a plane lands, it burns extra fuel during the descent and the climb. It costs money in airport fees. It takes time for passengers to deplane and board again. Ground handling, catering, crew scheduling, it all adds up. On some routes, that stopover can significantly eat into profit margins in ways that aren't even visible on a ticket price, but absolutely show up on a balance sheet. And cargo is the part of the story that most passengers completely overlook. The belly of a wide-body jet like the 787 doesn't just hold the suitcases. It's full of freight, and for many airlines on many routes, that cargo revenue is the difference between a profitable flight and a break-even one. Especially on routes where passenger demand fluctuates with seasons, with geopolitics, and with fuel prices, the cargo numbers can carry the whole operation. So when Boeing gives an airline the option to load an extra 5 tons of freight without changing aircraft or routes, that's no small improvement. That's potentially millions in additional annual revenue per aircraft. Before we go any further, let's appreciate what the 787 Dreamliner already is, because the upgrade only makes sense in that context. Since the first 787 entered service with All Nippon Airways in 2011, the family has opened more than 530 new non-stop routes that never existed before. Connections that simply weren't viable before this aircraft came along. The program passed 2,000 firm orders during 2025, and by the end of that year, nearly 1,250 Dreamliners have been delivered worldwide. It became the best-selling wide-body jet in aviation history, a crown it shows zero signs of giving up. In 2025 alone, Boeing received almost 400 new 787 orders, and delivered nearly 90 of them. Delta Airlines, which had exclusively bought Airbus widebodies for years, finally broke form and ordered at least 30 Dreamliners. Qatar Airways placed the largest widebody order in its history for 130 Dreamliners. United Airlines holds 221 orders, making it the single largest 787 customer on Earth. The aircraft is made from roughly 50% carbon fibre composites by weight, which is why it burns up to 20 to 25% less fuel than the planes it replaced. That's not marketing spiel, that's what made it commercially dominant. And now, with the iMTOW upgrade, Boeing is preserving every bit of that efficiency while subtly extending what the aircraft can do. When Boeing looks for a launch customer on a new capability, they don't pick randomly. They pick an airline that genuinely needs it. For the iMTOW upgrade on the 787-9, that airline is Air New Zealand. Air New Zealand was also the original 787-9 launch customer back when the variant first entered service. And the reason they're first again now tells you everything. New Zealand is one of the most geographically isolated countries on the planet. Auckland to New York is roughly 9,700 miles. There aren't many aircraft in the world that can make that run without stopping. The 787-9 with iMTOW capability makes that route not just possible, but economically significantly more viable. Baden Smith, Air New Zealand's General Manager of Strategy, Networks and Fleet, said watching their first iMTOW-capable 787-9 complete assembly at Boeing's South Carolina plant was genuinely exciting. The airline's looking directly at its ultra-long-haul routes, including that Auckland to New York service, and figuring out how to use the extra payload and range to support trade, tourism and connectivity. And they're already acting on it. Air New Zealand is launching non-stop flights from Christchurch to Singapore, Tokyo Narita and Perth using Boeing 787 aircraft, starting from late October 2026. Far from being a coincidence, that's a carrier using new capability to reshape its own network in real time. This is where it gets truly interesting if you're the kind of person who finds airline strategy fascinating. And honestly, if you're following this channel, you probably should. Right now, there are dozens of city pairs around the world where airlines want to fly non-stop, but can't quite justify it economically. Maybe the range is just barely too short. Maybe cargo yields are insufficient with the current payload limit. Maybe the passenger load alone doesn't pan out. The iMTOW upgrade shifts that equation. An airline staring at a marginal route suddenly has a different calculator. More range means the hop becomes viable. More cargo capacity means the flight makes money on freight even when passenger bookings are weak. Think about the kind of routes this opens up. Southeast Asian cities with secondary European destinations. South American hubs connecting directly to more Asian markets. African cities that currently require multiple stops to reach North America. Long-haul aviation is essentially a geography problem, and this upgrade gives airlines a better solution to several of those geometry challenges all at once. And the elegant part is what Boeing's VP of Commercial Marketing Darren Hulse pointed out early on. Boeing built the production line to manufacture both the standard MTOW and the higher iMTOW versions simultaneously. Airlines choose which one they want when they order. There's no separate program, no long wait for a different aircraft type. It's effectively the same Dreamliner with more capability baked in at the factory. And here's a reality of the airline business that sounds boring, but is actually crucial. Introducing a new aircraft type is brutally expensive and very slow. When an airline takes on a completely new aircraft, they have to retrain every single pilot who'll fly it. That means new type ratings, simulator hours, months of transition. They have to stock entirely different spare parts. They have to rewrite maintenance schedules. They have to brief crews, update ground teams, reconfigure systems. For a large airline with hundreds of pilots, that process can cost tens of millions of dollars and take years to fully roll out. In an industry where margins are frequently measured in single-digit percentages, that is a serious deterrent. The 787 iMTOW upgrade asks for none of that. It's the same cockpits, same type rating, same systems. The pilots flying Air New Zealand's new iMTOW-capable 787-9 don't need a single extra hour in a simulator. The plane handles the same way because structurally it's the same aircraft, just built to tolerate higher weight within more or less the same aerodynamic envelope. That's the sleeper advantage that Boeing understood airlines were asking for. Not a completely new product, but a better version of an already trusted one. While the 787 upgrade has been quietly moving through production and certification, and is now physically landing in airline fleets, Boeing's other big story is moving to a very different rhythm. The 777X, Boeing's next-generation super widebody, has been one of the most watched and most delayed programs in commercial aviation history. Boeing now expects certification in the second half of 2026, but even certification won't mean passengers are boarding immediately. Entry into service is likely to be 2027 at the earliest, because even after an aircraft is certified, airlines still need months of crew training, maintenance preparation, and network adjustments before it can fly commercially. The contrast is striking when you think about it. The 787 upgrade, already built, already certified, already delivering. The 777X, still awaiting its final regulatory green light, with entry into service potentially still over a year away. Some industry observers see this as Boeing being deliberate rather than troubled. After years of high-pressure deadlines and the reputational damage that came from rushing, Boeing appears to be taking a more measured approach with the 777X. Get it right before passengers ever step on it, what many would justifiably argue they should have done with the other new models and even with the original 787. But for the airlines waiting on 777X deliveries, including Emirates with a backlog of 270 of them, every additional month is a month of planning and scheduling held in suspension. The gap between certification and service isn't just administrative, it costs carriers real money in deferred network planning. Step back and look at these two programs side by side, and a strategy starts to emerge. Boeing isn't chasing headlines right now. They're rebuilding credibility through execution. The 787 iMTOW upgrade was first announced in 2022 and has been developed carefully ever since. It arrived on time, certified properly, and is already entering fleets. That's certainly not accidental. That's a company that learned a painful lesson about what happens when you promise things you can't deliver on schedule. The broader market is rewarding that approach. The 787 was the best-selling widebody of 2025. Boeing delivered 600 total aircraft in 2025, its best production year since 2018. The backlog for Dreamliners alone sits at nearly 1,000 aircraft. The market isn't waiting for something new, it's buying more of something that already works. And what this specific upgrade tells airlines is that Boeing is actually, finally, listening again. John Murphy said it best. Airlines sent Boeing a clear message that they wanted greater flexibility. Some wanted the 787-10 to fly longer missions. Others wanted the 787-9 to carry more payload. Rather than launching a new program, Boeing engineered a solution that satisfies both asks on the same aircraft. That is a different philosophy than what dominated aerospace thinking a decade ago, when the answer to every airline request was a new variant, a new program, a new announcement. Now the answer seems to be, let's make what you already trust do more. Here's what this all boils down to. Long-haul aviation is being quietly restructured as we speak. And rather than through some revolutionary new aircraft, it's happening through incremental upgrades to a proven one. The routes that you'll fly in 2027 and 2028 that aren't possible today won't exist because of some crazy breakthrough announced in a press conference. They'll exist because of an engineer in South Carolina who figured out how to squeeze 6,350 kilograms of extra capability out of an existing composite airframe. For travellers, the visible effect will be simple. More direct flights, fewer connections, and destinations that previously required a layover now being accessible in a single hop. For airlines, it means more tools available to manage a market that shifts quicker than any schedule can predict. And for Boeing itself, it might be exactly the signal that the market's been waiting for to show that they're a company that can actually execute again. Because in aviation, as any airline exec will tell you, the most important number isn't how fast you can go or how high your ceiling is how much you can carry and how far. And Boeing has just changed both of those. If you found this interesting, there's plenty more to come. I break down the real stories behind aviation, the ones that actually affect how the industry moves, how airlines make money, how the flights you take every day are planned and executed. Not just the announcements, but what they actually mean. Now I've done a couple of these rundown sections, I thought it might be a good time to introduce myself a little better, as I think they might be sticking around. So my name is Tim, and I do fly full-time. That's my primary job. So all of this I'm having to fit in around that, which is more than a challenge sometimes, but it's also pretty rewarding as well. So I hope you appreciate these rundown sections at the end of the videos. I feel very much out of my element behind the camera, but I wanted to introduce more of a human touch to the videos, prove that it's not AI. It might be a very boring voice, but it is mine. And from the comments I've got, it seems that a number of you wanted that human aspect to things as well, so hopefully you appreciate it. I am trying to improve the quality. I know the first couple of these rundown videos were less than ideal. I've still got some work to do, but we're getting there slowly. So if you do have any questions or feedback or thoughts, please do drop them in the comments. Likewise, if you've got any ideas for future videos, then by all means drop them down there. If there's something that seems like it's worth looking into, I'm always open to new ideas. Once again, thank you so much for sticking with me until now. Thanks for watching the video, I really do appreciate it. Hope you hit the subscribe button if you've not already, and stick around because there'll be plenty more content really soon. Thanks very much, see you next time.